Welcome to Understanding the Self. This lesson is lesson number 6, the physical self. All right. So the self is impacted by the body. Self-understanding is the individual's cognitive representation of the self, which consists of the substantial and the content of self-conceptions. It differs from the child's understanding of which changes through the lifespan as the person grows older. So nagbabago dito yung understanding ng isang tao or or ng individual as they grow older. Oh, okay? So kung dati ganito ang paniniwala niya, when he grows older, nag-iiba yung pananaw niya sa buhay. Okay, it differs from child's understanding the self which changes through the lifespan as grow older. So, paano natin ma-identify kung tama na yung understanding ng isang tao is by life experiences. Ganun siya. Okay, bakit siya tinawag na the self is impacted by the body? Meaning to say, nagbabago ang sarili mo. Depende sa, or nagbabago ang pagtingin mo sa sarili mo or ang physical mo as you grow older by self-understanding or how you perceive yourself. How can we say if we grown up? Alright, so paano natin sasabi na okay, nag-grow up na ako. Or, di ba? Minsan sinasabi natin na hindi ka pa, kailangan mo mag-grow up or hindi ka pa nag-grow. We have the growing up. Growing up as children advance in age, their interests change and these come changes in their bodies. Alright? So nagbabago dito yung pananaw ng isang tao habang tumatagal. Okay, and with this pananaw of a person, nakikita din ang kung paano ka makitungo, kung paano ka magamit, and also kung paano yung mga physical things na nakikita mo sa sarili mo. The changes are rapid, okay? And before parents notice it, they no longer have babies but unpredictable teenagers. Okay. So, madali daw mabago ang growing up. Ibig sabihin, or mabilis ang pagbabago. Okay? Bago pa ma-notice ito ng family mo or ng mama, papa mo, may nagbabago na sa'yo internally. Okay? It is at this stage that parents should respect their teenagers' privacy and allow them enough space to grow, but at the same time, let them know that their parents are always ready to listen and provide support. Meaning to say, some nagkakaregla or minsan in growing up, napapansin sa lalaki is tinitigas yung utong or nagkakabuhok, nagkakabulbul or tinutubuan ka ng buhok sa iba't ibang part ng katawan mo. It's part of growing up. It's part of the physical self na kung saan or pwede kang magkaroon ng Adam's apple if you are a guy na kung saan reglahin and lumaki yung boobs na kung saan ang pwedeng gawin dito ng family mo is they're always willing to listen and support you when you grow up. Okay, so it is part of growing up yung mga physical things na nangyayari or physical changes na nangyayari within yourself. Okay? Physical self refers to the concrete dimension of the body. It is the tangible aspect of the person which can directly observe and examine. Halimbawa, as I mentioned earlier, in regards to this physical self, kasama dito ang pagbabago, yung iba, sasabi, nagbibinata ka na kasi if you have Adam's apple. nagdadalaga ka na if you have regular lumalaki na yung dibdib, or, dibdib mo or suso mo. Okay, physical characteristics are the defining traits or features of the person's body. The first thing a person sees when he looks at another could be their facial features, hairstyle, clothes, or figure. This physical characteristic can easily be distinguished with the naked eye. Meaning to say, these are the things na nababago sa'yo habang ikaw ay lumalaki. Alright? Kasama dito is yung pananamit mo, hairstyle mo, kung paano ka makapagsalamuha sa tao. It affects yung pakikisalamuha mo sa tao because of your physical self. Erik Erikson believed in the importance of the body from early development because the physical as well as intellectual skills will somehow serve as basis whether a person has achieved a sense of competence and be able to manage and face the demands of life complexities. Sabi ni Erik Erikson, mahalaga ang physical self to identify yourself if how you perceive things. As I mentioned earlier, okay, nagbabago ang paniniwala, pagtingin mo, depending din sa pagbabago ng physical mo. And this is an important part of changes sa isang tao. Ibig sabihin, if you are maitim or not maitim, if you are maliit, okay, we have this kind of saying na kapag maliit ka is inferior. Okay, if you are taller, you might be superior. Something like that. Diba? That's how teenager perceive eh. If you are maliit, hindi, may mga bagay ka na hindi kayang gawin. If you are malaki, matangkad, may mas madaming bagay ka na pwedeng gawin. That's how teenager thinks. And this thinking is important part or the self is important part of the body na kung saan pakikita natin kung if you are inferior or if you are superior. Okay? So, kung maganda ka ba, yung self-confidence mo, nakabase din ito sa physical self mo. Nakabase din ito sa kung paano nag-develop ang sarili mo. Alright? Next. When children reach 10 to 12 years of age, puberty begins and they are now in adolescent period. This transition period in human life span lasts from 18 to 22 years old of age. The age bracket of the period of adolescence, however, may vary across different groups. Okay? So, halimbawa, is in the Philippines, okay, this study is conducted in the United States. Sa kanila kasi, when they reach 10 to 12 years old, parang sasabi natin, if we are Filipino, they look 15 or 18 already, but they are already 10 or 12 years old pa lang. So, nagba-vary yung culture natin or kung saan, not the culture, but the pagbabago or the changes in adolescence. Okay? So, yung age bracket na to, nababago. So, di ba, according to study, kapag 21 years old ka na, dun daw nag-i-stop ang paglaki ng pagtangkad mo. Alright? So, mabilis ang transition na to. Ibig sabihin, di mo na mamalayan na nagbabago na pala yung pag-transition ng katawan mo in regards to your body. And as I mentioned earlier, paano in Philippines? I am 30 years old but I look 25. Kasi nga, that study is conducted in the United States. However, in the Philippines naman, In the Philippines, the Youth in Nation Building Act 1994 defined youth according to ages which cover between 15 to 30 years old. This age range was created by National Youth Commission. Alright, so kaya mapapansin bakit 30 ka na pero you look young than pag tiningnan ng ibang lahi. It's because of different culture or different nature, different ng pagbabago na nakikita sa sarili. Mas late ang pagbabago ng mga Eastern sa development ng kanilang katawan. Puberty period of rapid physical changes. The changes that are expected during puberty are different for girls and boys and experience menarche, which is her first menstrual flow. Boys 2 to 3 years later experience spermarche or semenarche, which is his first ejaculation or nocturnal emission. Okay, we will be discussing this spermarche and semenarche during during synchronous. Alright? So, with this stage, ito yung paglabas or sasabi nila wet dreams. Okay? Sabi, according to study, kapag mas nagkakaroon ka ng wet dreams or mas nilalabas ka ng wet dreams sa gabi, is mas lower yung chance mo or low yung rates mo na mag-masturbates ka. And same with the girl. Okay? Not same with the girl, but however, in regards to that one, tinatawag na nocturnal emission yung mga ganong bagay. Okay, sa boys. Usually, it happens with the boys. And this diagram or the differences of girls and boys. Ovaries increase production of estrogen and progesterone. Uterus and vagina begin to grow larger, as I mentioned. As you grow older, these are the changes that you might experience. Weight and height spurt, muscle and organ growth, menarche, the first menstrual period, first ovulation, breast growth, also with the boys, with testes, increased production of testosterone and estrogen, increase of size of testes and penis, appearance of pubic hair, or yung bulbul, tinatawag weight spurts begins, peak height spurts, mas tumataas yung, yung height spurts, okay, na-achieve yung pag adolescence ka na when you get 21 or 22, yan na yung pinakamatangkad na pwede mong ma-achieve na height. Voice lowers, bumababa ang boses or lumalaki. Appearance of facial hair as well, or nagkakaroon ka ng bigote. We also have puberty, a period of rapid physical self. Isa dito is the pituitary gland controls growth and regulates the function of all endocrine glands, including gonads, ovaries, and testes for boys. Alright? So, we have primary and secondary sexual changes. Ano ito? Sa primary sexual changes, these are the physical characteristics. Sa secondary sexual changes, ito ba yun sa reproductive organs natin na nakikita. Primary sexual changes is lumaki yung boses mo, okay? Or yung mga or nagkaroon ka ng Adam's apple if you're a boy, or lumaki yung suso mo if you're a girl. Secondary changes is the menstrual cycle. Sa lalaki naman is nagkakaroon ka ng tamod, paglabas ng tamod. Those are the secondary sexual changes that is happening sa adolescence. Alright, so we have body image. Refers to way one sees himself or herself or the way he or she imagines how he or she looks. So, nakikita dito na in general, girls are less happy with their images than boys as puberty goes. Okay? Moving towards the end of puberty, however, both girls and boys feel positive about their body images. Bakit? It's because of that's how you perceive. This is what the beauty na sinet ng standard ng society. If you're maliit ang suso mo, if you're a girl, you might experience na inferior ka. Okay? Or kapag maliit ang penis mo, baka sabihin mo na hindi ka ganun hindi ganun ka, yung body image mo is hindi ganun kaganda. May mga ganung stereotype. Okay, makikita natin yun um, sa how we perceive sa body image natin as we go along. Young adolescents usually experience an imaginary audience. Okay? Which refers to an egocentric state where the individual imagines and believes that many people are actively listening or watching him or her. With this kind of imaginary audience, in social psychology, this phenomenon is called spotlight effect, which refers to the belief that others are paying more attention to the person's appearance and behavior than they really are. Okay? In social psychology, spotlight effect yung akala mo sa'yo nakatingin yung tao. Akala mo ikaw yung piyapat tungkulan doon. Alright? Usually, kapag sinabing nagsalita ka na naman ng hindi maganda, okay? Or may sinabing, not ikaw, but may narinig ka salita na hindi mo nagustuhan. Akala mo or para sa'yo, ikaw yung pinapatumaan doon. Halimbawa, sinabi na pango or matangkad or maitim. Okay? In adolescence, nakakapag-produce ng imaginary audience. Okay? Na kung saan, nakikita natin, nakala natin, tayo yung pinapatungkulan. Akala natin, titingnan tayo ng ibang tao. That is spotlight effect in social psychology. So, next, as I mentioned earlier, this is the spotlight effect. Alright? Yung sinasabi natin kanina. Sinasabi ko kanina. We also have personal factors. What are these? Introspection and self-reflection. Looking inward, when we say looking inward, that's how you perceive yourself looking in yourself. This one's simplest way to achieve the self-knowledge. It is introspection is the process by which one observes and examines one's internal state or mental and emotional after behaving in a certain way. Sabi sa study, introspection is limited because people are commonly motivated to unwanted thoughts and experience out of memory and consciousness. Ibig sabihin, people have a low sight on aspects about the self where they wish were not true, and many people tend to overestimate their positive aspects. So, paano nakaka-apekto ang pagtingin mo sa physical self mo is by looking inward, okay, or self-reflection. This means that people have a low self-insight of aspects about the self where they wish were not true, and many people tend to overestimate their positive aspects. Next would be self-perception theory. Explains that since one's internal state is difficult to interpret, people can infer their inner states by observing their own behavior. As if they are an outside observer, the physical perception includes all aspects of a person's perception of his personal self. With this self-perception theory. Sasabi dito na makikita mo yung sarili mo or how you perceive yourself or the physical self by how you kung paano mo inoobserbahan ang pag-ugali mo. Okay? Yun yung sinasabi sa self-perception theory. You are in-interpret mo yung sarili mo, inoobserbahan mo siya as tinitingnan mo na ikaw mismo yung observant ayon. Okay, so for further explanation, we'll explain that one during synchronous. We also have self-concept, a cognitive representation of self-knowledge which includes the sum total of all beliefs that people have about themselves. It is also a collection of all individual experiences involving one's characteristics, social roles, values, goals, and fears. Thus, it pertains all characteristics the person enumerates when asked to describe who he is. Okay? So, sino ka ba? I mean, ano ka ba? Okay? Kung paano ba tingnan ang sarili mo, that is the self-concept. And this self-concept of yours ay nakaka-apekto also kung paano mo i-view yung physical self mo. You might view yourself in a self-concept na dahil sa pangit ako, dahil sa pandak ako, hindi ako pasok sa standard of beauty. Okay? So, that is self-concept. Next is personal identity. This is the concept a person has about himself that develops over years. This includes aspect of his life that he was born into like family, nationality, gender, physical traits, as well as the choices he makes, such as what he does for living, who his friends are, and what he believes in. In personal identity, nakaka-apekto ang personal identity on how you view your physical self. This is the overall. Kung with your gender, with your nationality, and saan ka galing family, and the physical traits that napinili mo, alright? Yun yung these all factors are affecting yung physical self mo. Next will be social factors. Right? Attachment process and social appraisal. According to Bowlby, people learn about their value and lovability when they experience how their mothers or caregivers care for them and respond to their needs. These earliest interactions are important in developing who they are. Alright? So, napakahalaga ng attachment natin or ng family sa attachment natin kasi dito natin makikita if kung paano tayo mag-perceive ng sarili natin sa paano tayo makisalamuha. Okay? Sasabi din dito na how will you give love kung hindi mo pa naranasang mahalin ka? Right? How will you experience value or how will you give values kung hindi mo naranasan or kung hindi mo naranasan ang values na yon? By receiving na nakuha mo sa family mo, sa mother mo or caregivers, paano ka mag-respond sa mga needs na iyon. Alright? So, that is according to attachment process and social appraisal. Paano mo masasabi na you are a good one na pinapangalagaan mo yung kaibigan mo or loved one mo, jowa mo, boyfriend or girlfriend if you did not experience that one. So, yun yung sinasabi ni Bowlby sa attachment process and social appraisal. By attachment process ni Bowlby. Again. Alright? Maintaining, regulating, and expanding the self in interpersonal relationship. The sense of self is continuously shaped through ongoing interaction with other or with significant relationship partners. They act as private audiences with whom people carry an internal dialogue. Oftentimes, however, people are not aware that they are being influenced by these private audiences. So, maintaining and regulating, expanding the self in interpersonal relationship, sinasabi dito na people are not aware daw na na-impluwensya na sila nitong mga private audiences na to. Halimbawa, sinabi sa'yo na hindi maganda yung katawan mo, dapat magpapayat ka, sobrang taba mo na. Okay? So, these are the private audiences, like your friends or social na mga nakakasama mo, or kapag sinabi niya, uy, hindi maganda yung ilong mo, siguro mas maganda na magpatangos ka ng ilong. With that factor, naapektuhan netong social people na nakapalibot sa atin kung how we perceive our physical self. Okay? Kasi itong mga factor na to, yung mga kaibigan, yung nakapalibot natin, they act as the private audiences who influence also how we perceive ourselves. And next is the looking glass self. We already discussed this one according sa previous lesson. Okay? So, nakikita daw natin na perceive natin or nakikita natin yung sarili natin by kung paano tayo nakikita ng tao. Alright? We also have social comparison. It is a process of comparing oneself with others in order to evaluate one's own abilities and opinions. And with this social comparison, we have upward and downward. Ano ito? Upward social comparison happens when an individual compares himself to others who are better than them. Ibig sabihin, hindi mas maganda siya sa akin. So, meaning to say, mas angat siya sa akin. Alright? So, what are the other example? Kailangan kong magpaputi kasi yung kaibigan ko ay nakakakuha ng or mas madami na akong girlfriend or boyfriend kasi siya ay maputi. That is upward. You are getting something from that person that you are look up to na sa tingin mo mas better sa'yo. Okay? So, and that is one of the factor na kung saan na-review mo yung physical self mo as you are inferior. We also, or superior. We also have downward. So, downward naman, makikita mo na, ay, kahit na or downward naman is the vice versa or kabaligtaran. Happens when an individual compares himself to someone who is in worse situation than he is, especially when he is feeling low. Okay, so nakita mo na sa downward social comparison, you are comparing naman someone na kung saan worse yung nararamdaman sa'yo. Halimbawa, okay nang maliit yung mata ko, yung kakilala ko is ganto yung mata niya. Pwede natin sabihin na banlag, duling, or other panokso ng mga teenager. Okay? At least, hindi ako ganto. Yung tinitingnan mo yung isang tao or isang bagay na meron dun sa tao na yun para makita mo if you're going to uplift yourself or no. Okay? Sa upward, yun yung tinitingnan mo yung isang bagay na yun para masabi mo na siya ay mas angat kesa sa akin. Sa downward naman, titingnan mo yung isang bagay na yun na ako ay mas angat dun sa tao na yun kasi ganito ako. And that thing is nakakaapekto sa pagbuo ng physical self. For a person to have healthy self-image, it is important to never compare oneself to others. Rather, one should set realistic standard for himself. Alright? So, para daw magkaroon ng isang maganda na pagkita o pananaw sa sarili, kailangan hindi daw kino-compare yung ibang tao sa sarili mo. Okay? At hindi dapat nagkakaroon ng inggit para in regards to beauty, para magkaroon tayo ng magandang physical self or ng self-image. Alright? Kailangan magkaroon tayo ng realistic na standard kung ano ba talaga ang physical self natin na meron tayo. Alright? Yung iba kasi, di ba, there's a lot of meme sa physical self na hiwalay ang suso or hiwalay ang dibdib. Bakit ganyan? Is ang standard kasi ng beauty na nakikita ng tao is that. Kaya naapektuhan ang pagtingin ng tao sa kanyang sarili. Naapektuhan ang self-image niya kung ano ba talaga ang beauty because of this kind of things. So, social identity theory, formulated by Tajfel and Turner in 1979, which provides a framework about how people achieve understanding about themselves by being a member of their group. People have a need for positive social identity. That is why they connect to wider social network. This idea assumes that as a member of the group, they will not be discriminated by an out group. Okay? Example of this one is that parang hindi ka ma-out group sa isang scenario. Halimbawa, yung mga friends mo ay sa social identity theory, makikipag i-change mo. You're changing something about yourself. Okay? Para sinasabi dito sa social identity theory na you need to change something about yourself para maka-apekto or mas maging acceptable ka at hindi ka ma-discriminate sa isang grupo. Halimbawa, kung may grupo na ang tingin nila sa sarili nila or ang tingin nila is mga mapuputi, that factor can influence your social identity. So, ang gagawin mo, magpapaputi ka na din kasi nga, ito yung sinasabi ng, or ito yung mga nai-influensyahan ng mga kaibigan mo sa'yo. Alright? Para magkaroon tayo ng magandang pananaw sa physical self natin, dapat magkaroon tayo ng maganda din na grupo. And kasi para hindi tayo ma-out-group, kailangan nakikibagay din tayo. Yun ang sinasabi, or nakikibagay tayo, or kasi mas gusto natin, mas wider pa yung connection natin in regards sa pagkakaroon ng mas maraming kaibigan or mas ng acceptance sa iba. So, ano pinagkaiba ng self and identity? So, these are the self and identity, the person that someone truly is, or the entire person of the individual, the total characteristic qualities of a person both known and unknown to others but known to oneself. Ang identity naman is one who a person believes he or she is representing, a synthesis and integrators of self-understanding, the trait and characteristic social relation roles and social group members that define who one is, and a way of making sense of some aspect of part of self-concept. Alright? Okay. Now we have culture. In regards to this culture, it is defined as social system that is characterized by shared meanings that are attributed to people and events by its members. Okay? Nakadepende daw or nakadepende sa standard or nakadepende sa culture kung ano ang ibig sabihin ng beauty. Halimbawa, here in the Philippines, ang culture dito ay if you are white or if you have glass skin, you are beauty. If you have matangos ang ilong, you are beautiful or you are gorgeous type of person. And itong mga adolescents or young adolescents rather ay nakadepende sa kung paano i-label ng isang kultura ang pangit at maganda. That is why nagkakaroon tayo ng word na retoke, okay? Nagpapakulay ng buhok, nag-edit or tayo ng mga picture sa Photoshop. It's because of we wanted to be in a standard of what is culture na meron tayo here in the Philippines. And also, kung i-compare natin sa ibang bansa, the culture of them is hindi naman so like Western, kapag if you are dark skin or fair skin, for them that is beautiful. Kaya sila nagpapatan pa. Okay? So, these are the effect ng body image natin sa self-esteem natin. According ito sa kung paano natin tingnan how we view our culture. So, meaning, nobody is ugly. Halimbawa, ano ba ang culture ng isang tunay Pilipino? Sasabi na ang tunay na ano ba ang beauty ng isang tunay na Pilipino at Pilipina? Ang Pilipina daw ay may pangong ilong, kayumanggi, that is the real beauty. And if you are that kind of person na pangwang ilong, maitim, or morena, meaning to say that that beauty is a Filipina beauty. Okay, so nobody is ugly. Hindi natin pwedeng malibilan na ay pangit ka kasi maitim ka or kulot ka or sarat yung ilong mo. So, meaning, with that tradition, okay, with that kind of beauty na nakikita sa culture, nagkakaroon tayo ng product kung tataas or bababa yung self-esteem natin. However, sinasabi dito na nakadepende daw ang kultura so kung paano natin i-view yung sarili natin. Alright? Pwedeng tumaas, pwedeng bumaba. Okay? So, kung sinabi ng kultura na pag mataba ka is you are ugly. Okay? So, kasi nga, ito ang sasabi ng kultura, dapat you have that kind of perfect body. Beauty is defined as the quality of being physically attractive or qualities in a person's or thing that give pleasure to the senses of mind. Alright? So, every culture, different kind of beauty. Kaya sinasabi na beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Okay? Kung paano tingnan ng isang tao ang ibig sabihin ng kagandahan, yun ang kagandahan para sa kanya. Beauty is what the social media dictates, what fashion models looks like, and how his or her favorite celebrity dresses and behaves. Alright? Halimbawa dito is, if nakikita natin sa social media na ang kagandahan ay ang mga artista, alright? Kung halimbawa, kung ang mga artista ay kamukha ni Bakekang lahat, alright? If you still remember who is Bakekang or ni Onanay, that is the meaning of kagandahan kasi napakalaking impact ng social media sa pagbuo ng kagandahan ng isang tao. Kasi ito yung mas nakikita natin palagi. That is why if that is the standard of beauty, yung maaring iba gustong magpagawa ng kaitsura ng tao na yun. Okay, so different culture, different standard of beauty, alright? Different culture has a different image kung paano tinitingnan or nakikita sa social media. Okay? And this social media has a big impact kung paano makita kung ano ba ang kagandahan. Alright? It influences kasi it's a it has a big impact. It has a big influence na nabibigay ng social media and sa tao kung ano ang meaning ng kagandahan. Kung mas napapanood natin at mas sikat ng tao natin na may gantong figura ng pag-ugali, gantong figura ng kagandahan that is the beauty. It should be noted that every culture, as I mentioned earlier, beauty lies in the eye of the beholder. The bottom line is for young adolescent who is awkwardly experiencing physical changes, who is inexperienced and innocent of complexities of the world beauty, is what social media dictates fashion models look like, as we mentioned earlier also. And dito, sasabi natin na Filipinos have mixed heritage that can be traced back to Malay, Korean, Chinese, and Spaniard origins, but the original inhabitants of the Philippines called Itas. Alright? So, sabi nga natin kanina na kung if you are possessed with this kind of skin, kind of features, dark skin, curly hair, flat nose, you are beautiful. You're not an ugly, and you cannot tell if you know a person who is either that they're ugly or they're pangit because they are kulot, they have flat nose. Okay, because before pa na not malayan, but before pa na masap tayo ng different country, okay, that is the real original culture ng mga Pilipino is the looks of Ita. Alright? So, kaya lang naman nagkaroon ng pagbabago sa kung ano ang kagandahan sa konsepto ng Pilipino is because of naging malaking epekto ang pananakop na ito ng mga Spaniard at ng mga ibang mananakop sa konsepto ng pagiging nagkaroon ng malaking pagbabago ng kagandahan dahil sa na-influensyan tayo ng mga mananakop. Alright? And here in the Philippines, kahit na sinabi natin kanina, the real beauty is in Itas or the features of Ita, negative body image pa rin yung dark skin. They feel ashamed and embarrassed of their body because they think they are valued less compared to those lighter skin. This proves the importance of visibility and representation of mass media. As I am saying earlier, na malaking factor ng social media sa kung ano ang basihan ng kagandahan ng isang tao. Alright? The message that the society gives is that flat nose, as we mentioned, this foreign standard strongly impact the Filipino dahil nga sa impact ng nangyari ng or nakikita natin sa social media, mas dumadami ngayon ang nakaka-impluwensya kung ano nga ba talaga ang kagandahan. Okay? Now, let's move to self-esteem and ideal body image. Self-esteem is defined as the overall evaluation that a person has of himself, which can positive or negative, high or low. It measures of the person's self-worth based on sa personal or social standard. Okay? Kung paano natin i-evaluate ang ating sarili, or maaring negative yan, maaring positive. That is the self-esteem. Kung sa palagi natin ay kapag ganito ang itsura natin is hindi pa tayo pasok sa standard na inihingi ng isang society is malaki apekto din ito sa self-esteem natin. Okay? Okay, body image includes perception of physical self when they look in the mirror. Alright? Kung paano mo tingnan, how you view yourself. Yung body image mo, kapag umarap ka sa salamin, feelings of like and dislike about the physical self that they see, their thoughts and how they relate to their physical self, perception of how other people view them physically as well. The following are some aspects in culture that may have led to the aforementioned misconception. Society idea of the perfect physical form which are for women, as I am saying earlier, yung white skin, if you have that kind of white skin, you are beautiful. And if you are not a type of person that has a white skin, gagawin mo is pwede kang magpa-gluta or other methods para pumasok ka lang dun sa standards na yon. And also sa lalaki, maganda dapat ang katawan, may six-pack abs, and so on. Images of perfection adolescents see in all types of media. Example, print, television, film, and internet. As I mentioned earlier, malaking factor ang social media and yung mga nakikita at nababasa natin as what is beauty. Alright? Since this standard has been set by society and reinforced by social media, any characteristic that does not conform to that standard is labeled as ugly. As we mentioned earlier, kapag hindi pasok ang kagandahan mo sa social norm or sa social standard, ikaw ay pangit. So, how do we cope up? Okay, images perfection. See all types of social media as we mentioned. We're done with that. Oo, bumalik. Is it necessary to be beautiful? Kailangan ba na maging maganda ka for you to be accepted, for you to have high self-esteem, for you to be accepted by the norms? Alright? Halimbawa, maliit yung suso mo. Okay? So, hindi yun beauty. Ang gagawin mo ay magpapalagay ka ng implant or hindi matangas ang ilong mo, magpaparhinoplasty ka. Kaya kailangan ba yun para for you to become beautiful? Kasi this is really what the standard or what the norms dictates. Okay? So, yes, beauty is important, but being beautiful still depends on how a person defines beauty, and the standard is set to meet his definition. So, wala naman daw sinasabi na wala naman daw na sariling standard talaga kung anong beauty. It's how you set your mind kung ano ang kagandahan para sa'yo. Alright? Ano ba ang definition mo ng kagandahan? Mahalaga ang kagandahan, yes, but kailangan pa rin ito ay nakadepende sa kung paano mo tingnan ang sarili mo or paano mo tingnan ang isang bagay na wala or meron sa sarili mo. So that is beauty. So right, so we have an activity here right after this lesson, and that is the end of lesson number 6. Okay, so thank you for listening again. Hope you learned something.